I am so happy that you guys are here with me today because we are visiting the topic of awakening the soul. When RJ called and said the theme of Sac Soul Talks for the month of June, and apparently it's been every month of June, Sac Soul Talks has been running for many years, and June is about the awakening because the summer solstice brings the longest day of the year, right? I knew it was my right topic because my life is so vastly different this June than it was last June in ways that I'm not even sure I'll be able to capture during this talk, but I'm going to begin to try to tell the story. However, as RJ was doing our subtle introduction and bringing us into the space, I found myself in that meditative space of allowing the dialogue to form in whatever way that it wanted. And this picture of myself as a child came to mind. And I thought about what it was to be awake. Now, what you need to know is many, many weeks ago when RJ and I talked about this talk for Sacramento Soul Talks, I started thinking about being awake. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about being awake. So you would think this story that I'm going to share right now would have come to mind before this moment. But it didn't. It's here now for us, for whatever reason that is. When you were a little child, do you remember being woken up, maybe by a sibling or a loved one, and how they would wake you up? I'm sure everybody has a slightly different story. Maybe some people got tender kisses on the forehead. Maybe some people got yelled at by their sibling, "Get up! You're gonna miss the bus," right? We all would get woken up in some way that became familiar to us. Well, when I was a little girl, I hated being woken up. I hated it. So much so that I didn't even like to get up on Christmas morning. Now, Christmas is something that, for those of you that celebrate it, you'll know that it's a highly anticipated day for small children. My brother would spend the entire year looking forward to Christmas Day. My brother, the morning person, would be up before the sun rose to make sure that we could go up and see what Santa had brought us. I would be woken up by my brother. Get up, it's Christmas, come on, let's go see what's under the tree. I would make it, this is what my mom says, as far as the door, and I would take my blanket and lay down there. And then they'd come and get me again, and they'd nudge me, and then I'd make it as far as maybe the Christmas tree, but I'd have my blanket over me, and I would sit there like this, almost pouting on Christmas morning. Who does that? Now, you might think I don't like presents. I love presents. Feel free to just keep bringing them. Love them. I love the holiday in terms of being able to have that time with my family, my mom, my dad, my brother, whatever other family would come and visit us, whoever was coming, I would look forward to seeing. But I've never liked being woken up. Some of you might be the types that get up out of bed before the sun even rises. You grab your cup of coffee or your favorite book, and you sit with the sun rising, and you think how joyful you are to be awake. I envy that. I feel like this concept of awakening one's soul, might match how we are in waking up in every day. Some of us might wake up in the morning and just look for how can we be more awake today. I start my day thinking, how can I pull the blankets up over my head and go back to the way it was yesterday? Which really explains a lot about why I stayed pretty much asleep for almost 15 years. Because it was just too much to think about really fully waking up. Now, over those 15 years, I can tell you, I know some days I got up, And maybe I read a favorite passage in a book or had a favorite shared drink with a friend, like where we communed over, I don't drink coffee, but hot milk for me. Or, I learned something new and was super excited to share that with somebody. I know there were those moments, but I think it was kind of like being pushed out of the bed when I was a kid, where I was making it to the door or maybe even making it to the tree, but I wasn't making it all the way outside. I really wasn't making it to the sun. So as I was preparing for this talk, it's funny what happens is you begin to embody an idea. I've been speaking for, 20 years, I guess. I was a consultant for a software company many, many moons ago in the early 2000s. And because of that, I was given an opportunity to be a consultative speaker, which meant that I went around internationally throughout Canada and the United States, and virtually I led workshops in Asia as well to speak about different topics related to the software and implementing soft skills training in organizations. So it's always been in me to speak in groups. But over the last couple of years, I have not been in front of groups much. It's been one of those things where if I am in front of a group, I'm usually with a group of people introducing other facilitators. This is the first time that I've actually stood up and used my own voice in as long as I can recall. Isn't that funny? Yeah. So when RJ called and said, hey, do you want to do this? Can you do this? The answer was yes and yes. And then it was like, oh shit, what did I just say yes to? Right? Because I know what happens when I prepare for a talk. I'm not subtle about it. I go all in. And so let me tell you what happened when I went all in. I cried for days. I slept for days. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't really eat. I couldn't really do much of anything at all. I could tell something was letting go. I wrote in my journal, I don't know where I am right now. Somewhere between sleep, meditation, visionary future, and the abyss of the unknown. Nothing feels right. Nothing feels wrong. It is as if all is lost, and yet nothing is to be found. Where am I wonder? Where have I gone? Where am I to go forward? Is there a place, a home, a destination? The tears have been with me for only a few days, but somehow it feels like lifetimes. Why do I cry? Are they my tears? I wonder from where they come and if they will ever go. There is something that I know, something that I wish I didn't know. What is it? Why does it hurt so much? Why do I want to pull the blankets over my head and pretend this thing that I know is something that I do not know? Kind of sounds like Dr. Seuss, doesn't it? The blankets over the head. This is me being awake, isn't it? I'm being awakened to something. What is it? Is it pain? Is it suffering? Is it mine? Is it others? Is it my love? Is it my children? Is it my own? What is this thing I know? What if it was actually nothing? Could it be that there's no power, no influence? What if I could allow it simply to be helpful, meaningful, lovely? What if I could bring myself closer to my own love rather than farther away from? Why does it feel like falling in love with the earth, the sea, the person for who I am to know? Why does this not feel like me? Why do I hurt so? I want so much to use my logical mind to tell me that whatever I feel is made up, or it's a place of fear, yet there is something allowing itself to actually clear, something I can feel to the very depths of my soul. What if it had nothing to do with other? I am love eternal. What am I grieving? The loss of some part of myself that will not return? What if I see myself as my lover? Am I leaving myself somehow? As I move forward with the earth, the sea, my person, am I leaving behind a version of myself, the wax figure pretending to have my shit together? Am I somehow more whole, more real, like Pinocchio? Is this what it feels like to be a real boy? I don't recall ever being afraid of losing someone, especially of losing a person to love or to feel passionate about whatever it is that they're in the act of creating. The act of loving another or being just one and the same with creation, So why do I feel this deep, deep fear, this deep sadness? I feel separation in the oneness. If you looked at my life, you would have thought that I had everything right. You hear this story all the time. You can go on the internet, Google it, and you'll see so many people telling the story. I had the big house in the beautiful neighborhood. My kids went to the school that was the best school. That meant that they got the best public education that was available to them because all of the parents volunteered their time there. Everybody kind of looked alike and really well put together. We all drove similar cars to our similar houses. We spent time at our neighborhood lake that we could golf cart to. We had our membership to the country club. We had our membership to the activities that went along with this wonderful community. And I would love to tell you that I sat there and I knew I was unhappy. But my friends actually laugh at me because what I would tell them was, I'm so happy. My life's great. It's so good. You should come and visit me in our wonderful neighborhood. We have golf carts and golfing and lakes and rivers, and you'll have so much fun, and bring your family and bring your friends, and we'll picnic, and you'll love it. Who was I trying to convince? Was I trying to convince them? I don't think so. I was trying to convince myself that all these things that I had obtained were the things that I had wanted. I had the job as the executive. I had finally earned the executive title after years of hard work. I started working when I was 9 years old. So to finally be an executive over the function of human resources, wasn't that it? Wasn't that my goal? I had it. The house, the cars, the title, the kids going to the right school, getting the right education. Yet I was trying to convince everybody, I'm so happy. Something wasn't right. Something wasn't awake. But when I read this in my journal, when I read this moment of letting go, and I see that I'm still letting go, I realize, I guess it's always going to be a process of things maybe just not being perfectly right. Kind of like how we wake up in the morning. It's not so much of a process of waking up one day and saying, oh my gosh, I've arrived and everything's perfect. As much as it is for me, sometimes a matter of pulling the blankets over the head and saying, I don't want to do it. And then pulling the blankets back and looking around and saying, okay, I don't want to, but what if? What if I expanded my horizons? What if I looked at the day differently? What if I said something more is possible? I mentioned that as much as a year ago, I had the corporate executive position that I'd worked so hard to achieve. I had my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, my spiritual life coaching certification. I had done it. Check, 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 check. I had my kids going to the right school. I had the big house. I had the right cars. I had the lovely neighborhood. I had the golf course membership. I have none of that today. None of it. My kids go to schools that are less than stellar on the list. They're not the number ones anymore, and they're the happiest I've seen them in a really long time. When I go to their schools and I see the other kids there, I see a diverse population instead of a bunch of people that look exactly the same. I see kids with barrettes coming out of their hair, shoelaces untied, and I think just a kind of almost like a dishevelingly, I've been playing all day kind of look, and I think, yes, 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 because it looks fun. It looks fun, right? My kids have to live between two houses now. I'm no longer married. Do I think that's easy for them? No, I think it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for the dad and I. It's got to be uncomfortable for my kiddos, right? And yet I see laughter in their hearts again. I see smiles. I see their childhood showing back up. less about the responsibility and resentment and more about the joy and the freedoms that should come with being a child. I don't know where I'm going to live come July 27. We're recording this in the summer month of June. By July 27, our lease will be up. We picked a 6-month lease because I was going through a divorce. I didn't know what would happen, where I needed to be. And so the 6 months is already come and gone. What the? I don't know where I'm going to live. Is that crazy? It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And yet I feel more alive, more awake, more successful, and more supported than any other time of my life. So when RJ said, will you come and talk about awakening the soul? I know that he was giving me the gift to spend time with the community of Sacramento Soul Talks so I could further be aware of my own awakening. My wish for you as we continue the dialogue beyond the closing of this speech is that you look at how you are in the morning, how you were woken up as a child, maybe how you would have liked to have been woken up as a child, and notice how you can use that information to help you be more awake in every day of your life. And the next time that you're thinking that you don't want to do something because it might be uncomfortable, and those thoughts of resentment or being miserable or suffering show up for you, that you push them aside and you remember your success. You remember that time that you pushed through discomfort and you found the winning place. You found the assurance, the joy, that sense of completion, right? And know that it's worth it to go through the discomfort. So just the other day when I was writing in my journal, and I wrote all those things I read at the beginning of the talk, at like 8-something in the morning on Friday, here's what I wrote, or I guess that was on Thursday. Let's see if I know. It was Friday. So Friday, when I wrote that, early in the morning, I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Later that day, I was still on the same Friday, I said, after writing this entry this morning, I fell back into a deep sleep, and I woke up refreshed. I feel as though my guides and angels have been working with me over the past many days to help me move past a long-time block of attachment. I feel more fully awake. I feel free in a way that can't be described in words. It is as if worry has been lifted, and the sadness I had been carrying now reveals itself as a new stage of awakening. A grieving from the person I once was, and an embracing of the person I am to become. We are one and the same, yet we are different. The woman I am to know has new habits, a different perspective, a heart that has been shattered and put together again in a more beautiful form. I have a greater capacity to love, an appreciation of self, and an ability to live more fully awake, attentive, and alert to the bliss-filled possibilities of my life. Let us all awaken.